Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Great, welcome to this morning's Northern Powerhouses Business Success Stories interviews. Today we have with us Ed Sutcliffe, Owner Director of Met Marketing. So Ed, if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself and what you do and how you help your clients, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. As Chris mentioned, I'm one of the owners of Met Marketing alongside Tom Fordham. We're a recruitment business based out of Leeds, and we focus primarily on positions across the north. In our industry, which is mostly marketing, it's a lot of digital and e-commerce recruitment that we focus on, and tend to work with your sort of growing e-com businesses in the north that are looking to expand their teams.
Brilliant. Well, I can imagine it'd be interesting to know how, obviously we've been sort of 10 months, I guess, ish, since we went into lockdown, maybe 9-10 months. How has that affected you over the last year?
Yeah, I think in terms of the first couple of months, so March and April, it was that whole, everyone just didn't know what was going on. Yep. I'd stupidly flown out to France one day and then had to fly straight back as everything closed down, because I think everybody was told it was a bit of flu. So I think we had that shock to the system. But I think certainly in the space that we're strong in, whilst we do a lot of general marketing, in the digital space, I think there was that whole shift to home working, being at home more, and only being able to buy online or that side of things. So I think a lot of clients really saw a huge uplift and were surprised by that and had their own logistical challenges to that. But I think you found a lot of some of the B2B clients as well, who had more of a trade wholesale business that had literally overnight been switched off. So again, there was just a lot of that positioning in the market for the following sort of 3 to 6 months, and I think still now, where certain markets have been really buoyant by what's happened, but purely kind of by having to expand into sort of digital markets. So I think that's been the big shift for a lot of clients, as bricks and mortar wholesale side has really gone sometimes to zero. So that's been a massive shift in our industry.
Yeah, I can imagine. We do work with a number of recruiting companies, and it's a lot of it is dependent on the sectors. Some construction-based business at the start of lockdown completely disappeared because they were locked down. Since then, they've opened up, and I think they're staying open now. So that's increased. But as you say, and then some have gone gangbusters with various areas. So just breaking it into sort of challenges and wins and things. What would you say some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome?
I think there's been the internal side. Flexible working. We've all seen in terms of a number of years has been a big topic of conversation. So I think whilst this is flexible working, it's as inflexible, if not more so, than actually being in an office, but actually not physically being together has been a challenge. So the communication element, the motivation element has been really challenging from an internal perspective. And I think for let's safely say probably this new period now is maybe almost when we've actually got our act together finally. But I don't think we don't kick ourselves out because we've had to change, and you don't do that every night. You don't get it right. So I think definitely internally, in terms of how we keep you motivated, the communication has been a real challenge, which I think we've just started to see the fruits of sort of starting to get it right, when I'm sure we got it very wrong in the first instance. So that's certainly been a challenge. But I think what I've done this time, because I know we only look 21, but I have been through a couple of recessions in work, and I think what has happened a lot of times in those recessions is you see a lot of recruiters go to the bottom, and they'll drop their rates even further. They'll fight against tens of agencies and just want to get the crumbs. And we've absolutely not done that, and we do speak to other recruitment companies. We have good relationships with other recruiters, and I think a lot of people, whilst inevitably there's been cutbacks in our industry, I do think that they're not dropping the rates to nothing, and we are getting more exclusives. We've had retainers and things like that as well. So we are sticking to our guns on quality over quantity.
Brilliant.
And I think that's been a positive thing that actually I think clients have reacted to. So
Brilliant.
with that, the challenge has been candidates. I think again, a lot of clients think, there's lots of people going to be made redundant, lots of things happening, and actually the reverse of that's true. In our specialist industry, I guess there's not that stage yet. We're obviously waiting for the furlough scheme to finish and the equilibrium of what will happen after that. But certainly in the specialist roles and the specialist industry, we look at technology and things like that, that isn't happening. So what is actually happening is people are staying with better the devil, and staying in the companies, and they've got that security. And if they, if something changes and they need to get put on furlough, they've got that security blanket. So actually, candidates aren't moving either. So we've got a double whammy of all of that. So definitely, candidates is a challenge, and quality of candidates a definite challenge. So I'd say the challenges are very much internally, the team and getting that right in terms of motivation and communication. Then externally, it has been definitely the candidate side is tighter, when I think a lot of expectation is that it wouldn't be, and it is.
Yeah, I must admit, I spoke to one or two recruitment companies, and my expectation was and belief was there's lots of great. This is probably the best time to recruit because there's lots of great people out there that might be available through no fault of their own. But I did get that message back that yes, but if they've got any form of stability and security at the moment, they'll stick with that. And and again, that's an understandable human reaction. So obviously those challenges. I'm interested with the internal challenge as well, because I like the phrase "you can't not communicate." So even walking into the office when we were office bound and walking in, how you walked into your office would communicate something to your team as the leader. How have you replaced? What sort of adaptations have you made internally and externally to adjust to the challenges?
Yeah, because the communication isn't just about a meeting or sitting down with someone. You're just hearing stuff all the time, and you can support and mentor and things like that around the office. So you lose inevitably all of that. So I think the way we've started to overcome it is that is that structure of the calls in the morning and having a structured meeting every morning to set out individuals' days, and we have kind of various kind of reporting pieces that I'll update a few times a week, and even down to this week was the first one we did, but we've done sort of a mindful wellness half hour where we're doing something a bit different, which isn't work related, and having a half hour Zoom call. So we're sort of doing that in a much more structured way. So yeah, that's definitely happening. I think the other piece that we've sort of not done yet is in terms of actually maybe we're still unsure about how we're going to recruit for ourselves going forward, and when we need people, because there is that whole onboarding, training, development piece that we're still unsure how we're going to do that. So that's the next piece, is sort of getting to the stage of getting into a good phase with our current people. And I think the good piece was that other than one individual where they were quite, they were very experienced and got up to speed quickly, which was great, and didn't necessarily need the training. We were all had been in the business over a year, each of us. So there was that trust and working ethic already instilled. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one about recruiting new people next, and how we're going to manage that, because that's a completely different kettle of fish. So yeah, that's going to be our next understanding how we do that, really.
Brilliant. Yeah, funny enough, we've done a little bit of we've done a few recruitment sessions with one or two clients, and it is interesting and different, and it's and I think, interesting enough, for the ones that have done it, they're probably going to stick online, just because as a first phase. We do a lot of group stuff, so initial, getting people together, and that certainly, we didn't think it would work, as well in a Zoom environment, a Zoom room environment, but it really did. So it's quite fascinating. So yeah, that's great. So thinking about what looking to the future, we talked a little about you've chosen not, quite rightly in my opinion, not to, as you say, the race for the bottom and challenge and hold that situation. So what are the sort of key wins that you've seen over this period?
I think we've done, to be fair, in terms of our strategy, we moved very much to more of a retention strategy over a cold new business strategy, and that was something that was really starting before all of this happened, because I think we'll openly admit, and recruiters are just historically, and salespeople in general, I guess, are also very enthusiastic at the beginning, and they are the yellow people, aren't they, that have a lot of energy at the start and want to kind of do a task and move on, really. And I think that then means that, a lot of the time clients and candidates get, a good to great service when it benefits the recruiter almost, and I think then it drains away after that, and you might not hear from them for a year. So we sort of really focused, because we've been going 7-8 years, and we had hundreds of clients and thousands of candidates, that actually, why are we just always trying to, on the hamster wheel of cold stuff, and that wasn't bringing, for the energy putting in, you weren't getting the returns. So that was a big piece in terms of our wins, was really maximizing existing client bases and trying to move those relationships further on, really. So that was big. That's been big for us. Now we're looking at the cold business development piece, and that will inevitably come into the start, and that's part of my actual role. But I think the big success has been more of a retention strategy and a nurturing of our clients, to not just place and move on, or work a role and move on, and start to really kind of develop proper relationships.
It's just absolute. I mean, it's interesting when you said, sorry, it just makes sense. If you're from a sales background, it's more about, it always feels a bit more about, let's get the next one. But even statistically, it's for many years the stat of it costs about 6 or 7 times as much to get a new client as it does to keep one. So that focus, swinging that focus at least a sixth of the time, or sixth of the effort, it just makes absolute sense. And I think, interestingly enough, I think moving forward, I think loyalty is going to perhaps become even more important with just that feeling of instability that this situation has created. People want to grab onto things that they can be sure of. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, and again, it goes back to what I said earlier about not going down to the bottom. We worked out that when there were lots of agencies on it and clients were looking direct and all those kind of things, because it's just a race for candidates, then we were 1 in 4, 1 in 5 of those we were placing. So a good 75% of our time was essentially a waste of time. Yes. So the fact we place 80-90% of our exclusive jobs, that tells it all for it. Within 2 to 4 week period, then that's where you get the best out of us as a client and a candidate, and where we see the returns coming. So it is about the quality as well. Those are as well. Our wins has been about the just keeping the quality and not compromising on that. By just going for everything, walking away. It's hard in these times to walk away from stuff, but that's kind of what you've got to do at times, and that's a big thing.
I totally agree. I think a lot of the stuff we often talk to clients about is that if your target market is this big, like all the people that you could serve is this big, that's great. So it feels like we should be addressing as much as we can, but if we don't actually break that into small pockets of A-grade type clients, the clients that not just we would love to work with, but would love to work with us, and then directly go for those guys, we tend to, if you get, the phrase, if you go for everybody, get nobody, is really valid. So it's like, so very few businesses have only one small niche market, but they have 2 or 3, and the more focused I find we are, the more effective we are at finding the right people.
Exactly.
So of the adjustments that you've had to make, we've all had to make quite a lot. What ones might you keep doing when we actually get back to whatever new normal looks like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as I said, the retention stuff is going to be key, and keeping on with that. And then we've set up a mentoring scheme that is very much around kind of matching most of our senior people with individuals that are coming up through the industry. There's some kind of peers as well. So yeah, there's that scheme. So we've done the first one of that, and we've got kind of 60 people on that, and we're looking to do that quarter by quarter. So it is building value in other ways than just being there for the sale. So there's that side of it that we're sort of very much going to be continuing. I'm about to launch a salary survey that we've done in certain parts of our markets. So we're sort of doing a lot of that side of it, and looking at ways of diversifying into added value services that we can bring. So yeah, I think a lot of that, the value side, and not just being seen as a tactical deliverer all the time. And I think that's what a lot of people see recruiters as we're a tactical deliverer, and that's all we add. And I think we can do so much more, and we need to do so much more to adapt to the market and keep relevant, really.
Yeah, we something we talk about with our clients is we call it the law of precession, which is the idea has been you're operating at 90 degrees potentially to the ultimate outcome. So for me, what it means to me is if we just chase money, then it tends to elude us, because that's all we're going for. If we focus on something else, like helping as many people as we can, or delivering a great service, then the money turns up. So the money ultimately for business is its outcome. That's what it's there to do, to deliver profit. But if all we focus on is profit, typically it eludes us, because we're not focusing what's more important, probably to our clients as much as ourselves. So.
And the thing what you've got in any sales role, you've got the KPIs, because everybody wants to work to things that you can measure, and you can say, right, well, you do that and it delivers that, and that has its place. But I think what's always been difficult in sales is the sort of the ones that you can't put a KPI on, almost that still deliver value, but you can't necessarily say, well, if I do this podcast, it's going to give me X. Well, you can't put a number on that. But so that's probably where we're moving more to is actually, fine. We can't necessarily put a number on that, but it does add value to everybody concerned.
It sounds like you're moving. You're being more clear and defining the values and the culture of your business. And being as true to that, which and I believe, I've always believed that good relationships come with a match of goals, but great relationships come with a match of values. And the closer we go to those values, the more we attract people, whether that's whether that's our team, or whether it's our clients or even our suppliers. The more we're clear and express and communicate them, we're going to attract people that love working with us, because we both think the same things are important.
And I think, let's be honest, we've had challenges in the 8 or 9 years we've been going. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've lost good people from our business because of how we are. And I'm not going to say we're the greatest and we've been road, but I think we did a lot of that values work quite a few years ago now. Yep. But I think actually, when we asked earlier about some of the good things that have happened in this period, I think it has accelerated that, because I think through adversity, your real self has kind of come out, and rather than what you think should be coming out. And I think we've shown, and Tom and me always knew we had a good moral compass, but I think we've kind of shown that now, and it's kind of brought the best out of us almost, and means that we now know what we probably need to do more of, whereas before we were probably very set in our ways, because we'd all worked in different recruitment companies, and you had a certain mindset of how recruitment should work. Which was the KPIs, which was the just focusing on the money, not the other areas as well. So I think that's probably a good thing that's happened here, that it has accelerated mindsets and the values part that you mentioned, definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. We often talk with people about mindset and the idea that there's a pattern, and that there is a technique in influence called a pattern interrupt, where we're trying to interrupt the normal pattern of thinking. So whether that's Let's say in a telemarketing team, you ring up, the normal pattern when you get received from a telemarketer is to hate them as the worst person you've ever met in the world, even though all they're doing is calling you up and saying hello. And a pattern would be the way we've always worked. And the interesting thing is that one of my colleagues, with Charlie, who I know you've spoken to, and said, well, actually, the COVID pandemic is a global pattern influence. It's made us all think that we've got to do it differently, and that can only be a good thing in terms of us thinking about how can we do it differently, because often we just do it because that's what we've always done, and that's understandable, but it's great even outside of this sort of situation to consistently say, well, actually, how can we do it better? We've got, I don't know about you, but I was aware of this technology. We were using it a tiny bit before lockdown, but having now had to embrace it, we sort of wonder why we didn't use it 3 years ago, because a lot of effective stuff could be used with this sort of technology. Yeah,
I think I'm a bit of a technophobe, as most people know, and Tom does all our kind of tech stuff. I'm surprised I even got on here first time. So yeah, I think there's an element of that. I'm not sure it's my sort of favorite thing, but we still got we've got people we've placed months ago, that still haven't met their line manager physically. Yeah. That's happened. We've got people having to make decisions on roles without going into an office, and I'm still quite old school. Is that unfortunately I'm not in that position, but could I do it? It's a very different world that people are adapting to and evolving to, which is great. It's just whether I would do it, I don't know. But it's needs must, I guess. But yeah, it's been an interesting one. I think on a personal note about the last few months, I've actually relaxed more in a weird way, because I've had a lot of other stuff that's gone on, which if it comes up or not, but personally, that and also within this, and it's like 90% of it doesn't matter. 90% of the stuff you're worrying about does not matter. And it's that whole, and I'm very controlling. Hands up, I'm controlling, and I've got a loft conversion at the moment, which I'm doing with my partner and all these. So I've got loads going on, and I'm trying to just let it go, and with the team and stuff is trying. They'll probably tell you I'm not being successful at it, but I am trying to be less controlling, just let people get on with it, and the result, as I say, it's always that thing is people know, a lot of people know better than you can get to the same result as well or better, but might do it differently. And and in the personal life, it's do stuff that you enjoy, not that you have to. And yes, the stuff, I'm not saying you don't do stuff that you don't want to at times, and you shouldn't always be selfish and do it. But you can be a bit selfish about doing the stuff that you love and enjoy. And I went back to my child and said, right, what did I enjoy as a kid? What made me happy? Right, it's not the coolest thing in the world, but I'm just going to get on and do it, and I did it. So yeah, I don't need to be cool. I never was, but you don't do things for what other people think. Just do it for what makes you happy.
100%, and I think that that relates into business as well. And take someone like Brian Tracy would say, the most successful people and organisations are those where each individual spends most of their time doing the three things that they most love and most good at.
Yeah.
And however that needs to be. And the rest can be delegated to somebody else that loves doing that stuff themselves, because we are all different. So it's just finding that thing. But the other thing came to mind was as you said, relaxing a bit more, was I think Tony Robbins' phrase was, if it doesn't matter in 5 years, if it won't matter in 5 years, it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
And that's always sort of stood me in good stead, because it's a good point, because it's very easy to get focused on what is even a medium-sized challenge, probably isn't really something you're going to look back on in 5 years ago, well, that was significant. But yeah, it's great. So you'll have to tell us a bit about that later on, maybe, but we'll leave it to later. So of the things, obviously some adaptations you've made, some of things you'll keep, some you won't. is there anything that you're sort of looking back, you'd say we could have, it would have been great if we'd have done it sooner?
As in sort of sooner in our business before the pandemic, or as in
I suppose going into lockdown, but is it, I mean, just in general, I find it's an interesting question.
I think, obviously, Tom and me panicked, and we did the worst case scenario, and we focused particularly on cost saving, and that was one of our key things. We went around all our suppliers and we were like, look, let's what can we do here? So the sort of internal part of the team, and we did, I guess, furlough a couple and stuff as well. So I think we did panic in the start. So it would hindsight mean we'd do it. I think we were rightly prudent to start with. And so but I think we maybe would have taken a bit more time with things and not have, I guess, use the word sort of panic. I think the sort of, I think the structure and the communication and things wasn't as strong as it could have been, and I think that was the key to sort of, I guess, some of the successes we've had more recently as business has picked up, that we've had that call in the morning, and it's not really intense, and it's not all about, oh well, have you done this, have you done that, and kind of taking people to account. It's just for people to talk and share what they're kind of doing, and it's more for as much for those guys to share their day and communicate as it is for us as managers to be there. But we're not holding people account and sort of writing down and saying, well, have you done this, have you done that, have you done the other? So I would say probably, I mean, that would be the key thing, is the structure of communication that was lacking would be the thing we could have done better and got in place sooner, really. Yeah,
no, that it makes sense. So let's look forward and into the bright future that I hope we all have. When we get back to something like a new normal, what are you most looking forward to, both potentially personally and professionally?
Going on holiday. Everything we've moved, so just having that, because I guess at the moment, and I was being flippant then, the downtime that you're allowing yourself to have a holiday at the moment is actually pretty stressful, because I went away for a weekend, and in all intents and purposes, yes, I managed to stay in a hotel, but it's one-way systems, it's masks, it's doing your hands, it's not being able to mix with people, so it's not an experience that's enjoyable. Yeah. It's not, holidays are not, unless you're going, I mean, everybody seems to be in Dubai at the moment, there doesn't seem to be COVID in Dubai. So unless, that, and we were supposed to go to Barbados, but it was all tests before you go, tests when you get there. If you fail a test when you get there, you might go into a government facility. And it was like, well, are we going to take that risk when, going somewhere like the Caribbean, you want to be able to have a good time. And again, Absolutely. Lots of restaurants are closed, and there's, and things like that. So it is that leisure time that you need to balance versus your work time to re-energize yourself. And I think that's been lacking, because sitting at home watching the telly or going out for your hour walk is not mentally recharging yourself, really, and such like that. So I think certainly from a people perspective, it is that leisure time and that being able to do stuff away from work. I think it is the way we work is important. This isn't, again, this isn't flexible working. This is more restricted than we've ever really had on working. So it isn't flexible working. But I think what we've learned is and it's still I've only got a small team. It's only 5 of us, but I'm still getting questions of, I've got to go to the doctors, or I've got to go and get a haircut when you can get a haircut. I've got to go this, that, and the other. I've got an appointment. Am I okay going on it? And I'm like, well, that you're at home, you work. I've got Sarah who starts, she's got a young son. She'll start at 7 and do a couple of hours, and then say your son and do walks and stuff. And that's the whole point of everything that's happening now, is getting that the work-life balance. And it doesn't mean that you have to work your solid 8 hours in one chunk. You do it when needed. And even if you don't need, if you get your objectives done in 4 hours, then you get your objectives done in 4 hours. So I think there's getting that flexibility there is going to be a good thing. But I think interaction and being in the office is something that a lot of people will want to do for part of the week.
Yes.
I think there's very few people that still like, remote, I want to do all my life, and things like that, because I think it's not conducive a lot of the time. But so I think I'm definitely the sort of ability to have some leisure time and holidays and things is important for work and for mental health and all those kind of things, and then having the flexibility to have the work-life balance. And I think sales historically has been seen as this 7 till 7 industry and tough, and you get burnout and all those kind of things. So I think it's just bringing in a much more conducive way of working, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you see as the main challenges moving forward? Assuming, I'm going to assume we come out of, this year's looking more positive in terms of the outcomes. But what do you see the challenges that we have to face moving forward?
I don't know is the honest truth, because we're in as an uncertain phase as kind of ever, really. So we don't know what the impact of the furlough scheme is going to be. We don't know what, for our business, I don't see, because we don't do global or national, so we don't see what Brexit's going to pan out and how that's really going to impact on the economy, and all that kind of pulling together is, okay, what is going to happen to the jobs market? So we just don't know. So it's kind of a difficult one, really, because it is very much around the jobs market for us and the economy. And I just think we don't know. I think that's the challenge, the uncertainty. You can't plan too far ahead at the moment. Sorry, the sun's just kind of really annoying, isn't it?
No, it's okay.
So it is that, and so we've stopped annually planning this year. We are keeping it to shorter periods, because there's just too many things that we just don't know. We don't know. This lockdown's supposed to be to the end of March. We don't know what's happening with vaccines. And such like. So this year is still going to be very tumultuous as a minimum at the moment. So I think the biggest challenge is the uncertainty piece.
It's funny, we've always done longer term goals, because that's obviously where we're headed, but then shorter term planning. So our planning cycle is 90 days, which even 90 days is too long, in all honesty. Whatever the 90-day plan was at January 1st this time last year was pretty changed as you got into March, but no, it makes perfect sense. So what would you say you've learned about yourself over this time?
So again, I don't know how much you want to know about the personal stuff. So kind of like last year, my father passed away, and we started out at the start of lockdown. He was just kind of aging, but then when he came to live with my brother, we found out he had cancer, and he passed away back in October, November. So I've kind of had to deal with that side of things alongside all of this, and I think that's when I said about the relaxation. Is just, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't, and you just have to let go of the little stuff, really, the stuff that doesn't matter, and that's where I've kind of, as I said, I've relaxed more from a business and probably personal perspective, because I was always a bit pent up, really, and just trying to be just letting it go a bit more, and as I said, finding things you've enjoyed to do, and I used to horse ride, so I've taken that back up. It's not cool, but I had horses as a kid, so I'm playing polo these days, or they can't at the moment. So I've kind of taken that back up, and normally I'd be like, that's way too expensive. It's like crazy expensive. But I'm just like, do you know what? It don't matter. It doesn't matter. Why have I got stuff in my savings account that's 0.01% or whatever it is these days, when I just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. So yeah, there's just stuff around that. Spending more money to enjoy it, enjoy your life, relax more. It doesn't matter, and I think that's really kind of what I've started to learn more about myself, and such like. And I think looking, again, I'm going to go into slightly dangerous water here. I think so. I've got to choose my words carefully. I think it's the tolerance piece, and I think you look at what's happened with Trump, and certainly yesterday and today. I look at the way that women over the years have been treated, minorities have been treated, and I'll be the first to say, we can all make flipping jokes about stuff and be inappropriate, and I'm holding my hands up, I totally have been. But there's just stuff that's made me quite angry, and I'm going in. I'm looking very pale at the moment. The white privilege of really embarrasses me now, I think, and I think that's something I've learned about myself. And I see what's see all the people being interviewed on the Trump stuff and things, and I just look at the sort of the white male Western view, and that's what I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with that. And I don't want to go too deep, but I think that is starting to really kind of impact me a little bit. So yeah, I don't want to go too deep on that, but that's something that I'm working through at the moment in my mind around how the world is kind of changing in the view, and I think that has impacted on me. I think in a good way. And
it's funny you say that. I know, go back to the thing about what matters and doesn't. I was lucky enough to do quite a lot of traveling when I was younger, and into many third world countries, and saw a lot of poverty, and as a white British man, the reality was my worst day is going to be 10 times better than many of the people I met's best day, if you measure it on material issues or privilege. But A, what have I got to complain about? But B, what was also fascinating is how many of the people I met were ultimately appeared very happy, even in what would, by our standards, appear to be poverty or
But I think particularly the sort of you look at the treatment of women in the workplace, and how bad, and just over hundreds of years really, it's just starting to. I guess I've just woken up more than I ever have before, and maybe it's because I'm older and stuff as well. And I know there is a lot in the news about it, but I think that's been a big thing for me over the last sort of 12 months is sort of waking up to just that side of the things really.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really valuable and fascinating, and I feel for your father.
Thank you.
A few years ago, but on a looking forward note, positivity. Firstly, I must say, you can't let my daughter hear you say that horse riding and polo aren't cool, because I thought polo was super cool. I thought they were the
I don't know. It's just one of those weird things that you just have the visions of it being very kind of the upper class toffee side of it, which invariably is. But because it is, So I don't know. I'm not embarrassed about it. It's just kind of, I just don't want to. It does sound a bit knobby, but but hey, I said I enjoy it. But I think the two things with it, being honest, is the horse riding element. Loved as a kid, but there is that competitive element to it. It's a team sport. Yeah. It is very competitive, very fast paced, and all those kind of things. And it's kind of marrying those two things together. Just kind of trotting around on a horse wouldn't have done it for me anymore. I'd have to be just that person. So it kind of married those two things up.
Brilliant. It's a tough sport. I mean, from my understanding of it, it's a tough sport when you take into account the potential for injury. I would think it's quite a tough sport.
Yeah, it can be dangerous. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, look, just on a sort of final note, just looking to the future. What does the future hold for yourself and Met Marketing?
Yeah, I think Just with everything that's happened with my dad and stuff, I have sort of, I guess one of the things that's changed is I have put my 20-year plan in place and started to kind of get that now. I'm mid-40s, so I've put that 20-year plan in place now. So as a lot of people, we haven't been putting loads into pensions and things like that. So I've just been sort of going very much looking forward for that. So I guess the big thing for Met, in a way, is almost what we're starting to do already. It is, how do we get equity and value into that business that isn't just Tom and me? And we've talked about it a lot of the time. But there has to be some value in there. There's just not us as people, because we're not always going to be there. So it is that pushing on and getting the value in there. But me personally, it is diversifying my financial portfolio risk, all those kind of things. So it is sort of doing stuff that alongside Met that sort of gives me the financial independence later on as well. So I think for me personally, it is that 20-year plan now of what it's going to look like when I get to, I say, retirement age. I want to be on a yacht in 10 years, please. But in terms of the Met business, again, it's difficult to look that far ahead when we're in the midst of what we're in, but it feels like we're moving in. You talk about niches. It is that. Yeah. It is getting smaller to get bigger, almost. Yep. So there's definitely an element of that. But I think for Tom and me, it's starting to be happy with where you're at and appreciating where you're at, because I think we've always fallen into the trap that nothing was ever good enough. Whatever was happening just wasn't good enough. And I think we've got to start being, and Sarah did it in her piece yesterday on mindfulness. It's just being present, being in the present, and having the happiness of where you are at the moment, and not always looking for the next thing, because if you always look for the next thing, you never appreciate kind of where you're at or what you've got. So I think there's stuff around that. So in terms of the business, I couldn't tell you the kind of grand plan, but I think there's kind of more around how we feel about it, and how happy we are in the place that we're in is as important as physically having 20 offices with 500 staff. That I don't think would give Tom and me happiness. Because of the stress and the strain. I've got friends that have got that, and we're not those people that wants to have that stress, because there's going to be, we've seen it, 10 years time, there's going to be another bump. If it's not a financial crisis, if it's not a recession, if it's not COVID, it's a 10 to 15 year cycle. We will get a bump, and it's that, make hay while the sun shines, but the bump is blooming horrible, because it always has a correction. There's always a correction coming. You can be, we were naive in March because we'd had the best January we'd had for years, and we were like, oh, happy days, next quarter is going to be amazing. Well, it's not. It's terrible, because our second quarter of the year is always the best. So I think I think there's more around how we feel about things and how happy we are with things, as much as it is about how big stuff is.
Totally agree. I mean, ultimately, every person just wants to feel something. What we do is designed, we believe, to help us make that feel. If let's say wealth allows us to do things that makes us happy, it's the happiness we want. And the closer we get, and the challenge is, I think, the good thing is, we don't actually have to have that stuff to feel happy. That's almost a choice. It's a difficult choice sometimes. Yeah. But it is ultimately, whatever the situation. There's a great guy called Richard Wilkins who's got a very strong philosophy about why don't we just choose the feelings we want, because there's no reason we can't. And the idea, and his expression would be, I'm fantastic. I might still be having a crappy day, but I'm still fantastic, and that's okay. But it is quite a difficult journey to get to. Well, Ed, that's been absolutely fascinating, and I want to thank you for your time, but also your openness and and being so candid as you have been about where you are and what's happened and what the future looks like. And I would say, and I do believe, when you're able to take those steps back and do some of these you talked about, not, being able to let go a bit more, being able to live in the present, then, a lot of those things are recipes for a successful life and a successful business. So I'm sure whatever it looks like in terms of the external situation, you and the team are going to go from strength to strength. So thank you so much.
Because we can't control COVID as an example. So what's the point in complaining about it? Just nothing you can do, and you can only control how you feel about it.
Stephen Covey talks about, I don't know if you're familiar with that, circle of control and then circle of concern.
Okay.
The gap between what we're concerned about and what we control is typically stress. Because if we're worried about something we can't control, so the proposition is either increase the control by doing something about it or reduce the concern. So, well, I can't do anything about it. So, and it's not, it's easy said, not always easy done, but it makes sense. The quote, I love quotes, and I think the quote, we're talking about recessions, potential, etc., was, there's a quote from Walt Disney going back to the 1940s, I think, 1930s, 1940s, and or even earlier perhaps. But he said, basically, he said, I'm being told there's a recession, but I've chosen not to participate.
Yeah, so it's good. It's easy to say that when you've got millions in the bank, isn't it?
Well, it didn't. To be fair,
it's harder sometimes.
And that was early days. So I think it would have. I think it was a mindset thing. It's
I'm
sure he did have millions in the bank.
If you talk about it, you believe it. It leads to how you act, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
It's cause and effect, isn't it? It's breaking the pattern between external stimuli and how I choose to, react and think. Because I do believe, and I work with a lot of people right now, that for many businesses, in most sectors, this could be a really good time, because if we go proactive in terms of building, as you've said you've done and are doing, and think about how to create growth and success and keep clients and things, there will be other of your competitors that might be out there that have still got their head in their hands, or still thinking, how can we just think scarcity rather than abundance? And so just the feeling of well, look, let's keep our clients more. Let's focus on keeping our team healthy and happy. Those things are structures and foundations for a strong and healthy business. And if you said there's a team of 5 of you, most businesses we work with as owner managed businesses, if we were to say that this is the size of the marketplace we could address, in terms of if we were able in your business, say, to fulfill every post in your marketplace in the UK, then typically most owner managed businesses, SME businesses, are delivering into that part of the market share.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that's how big it is. That's what we do. Which means even when a recession happens and we get 10-20% reduction in GDP and marketplace, there's no reason a small business can't expand.
Can't still do it, yeah. And we see that, a lot of the bigger consultancies, do cut staff and stuff, whereas there's people like ourselves stay small and it can be agile in this environment.
Yeah. But it is a choice of attitude, I think, over over the situation. So look, Ed, I know I could talk for hours.
I talk too much as well, so sorry about that.
No, it's absolutely fascinating. So
thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant.
Cheers. Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.